Hey, this is Rick Casalge from exercisesforinjuries.com. I have your answers for the 7-question quiz on hamstring injury recovery. Now, if you don't know who I am an injury expert. So what I do is I specialize in helping people overcome injury and pain with exercise. So a little bit of my background. I got a kinesiology degree from Simon Fraser University, focusing in on active health, which was designed. It was pretty much specializing in exercise and injuries. Then I went back to school and did a master's degree in exercise science, where my master's project was most effective exercises to recover from a rotator cuff injury. Since 1994, I've been working in all kinds of settings when it relates to exercise and injury. So physical therapy clinic, personal training studio, gym, rehab center, all kinds of stuff in different areas, focusing in on that, exercise and injuries. I also write all kinds of books and manuals on that topic, and I write a very active blog called exercisesforinjuries.com. And this is one of the adventures that I had done a few years back, where I ended up hiking a long distance hike for 5 months, and I learned a lot about overcoming injuries during that time. Now let's get into the quiz. So the first question is, what is the second most common injury to National Football League players? This is an easy one. So we've got hamstring strains, knee strains, concussions, none of the above. And the answer ends up being A, hamstring strains. So over a 10-year span, among the players of the National Football League team, the occurrence of hamstring strain injuries was second only to knee sprains. So hamstring injuries are a very big problem, especially within active populations, or especially within sports. As I go through these quizzes, you'll see last names and years, and what that shows is shows you the research paper that I ended up getting that information from. Now let's move on to question number 2. Which hamstring muscle is often injured during toe off? So we end up having semimembranosus, semitendinosus, biceps femoris, or all of the above. So the answer ends up being C, the semimembranosus and semitendinosus, which are right here. They're on the medial side, with semimembranosus being most medial towards the middle, are typically injured during late swing phase. So that is just before that heel comes in contact with the ground. So it's kind of, just before that heel comes into contact. It might be even when that heel comes into contact. So late swing phase, while the semimembranosus and semitendinosus are eccentrically contracting. So an isometric contraction is, if we look at the elbow joint, the muscles are contracting and there's no movement in the elbow joint. A concentric contraction is when the muscles are contracting and you're curling, like you're doing a biceps curl, and the range of motion in the joint is decreasing. And then eccentric is the muscles contracting, but the joint angle is increasing. To slow is contracting to slow knee extension. Injury to the biceps femoris, which is this larger hamstring area, the most commonly injured hamstring muscle, occurs more often in toe off. So it's like toeing off the ground or pushing off the ground in order to swing that leg forward. And this is the research paper that talks about it. Now looking at number 3, which hamstring muscle is most often injured? Semimembranosus, semitendinosus, biceps femoris, or all of the above? And the answer ends up being C, and I kind of gave it away in the question before. Now, question number 4, what is the re-injury rate for hamstring injury? Is it 11 to 22%, 22 to 34%, 35 to 51%, or greater than 52%. The answer ends up being B. So we end up having 12 to 16% of all injuries in athletes. The injury rate is reported as high as 22 to 34%. Time away from sports is longer when re-injury occurs. And this is where I got that information from. Now, number 5, what type of exercises should be focused in on for hamstring injury? Stretching, strengthening, core training, and agility. The answer ends up being D, agility and core stability. So a rehabilitation program consisting of progressive, so that means the exercise is continually being more and more challenging. Progressive agility and trunk stabilization, that's what I call core stability exercises, is more effective than a program emphasizing isolated hamstring stretching and strengthening in promoting return to sport and preventing injury recurrences in athletes suffering an acute hamstring strain. So there you go. Focus in on agility and core stability when it comes to a hamstring injury. Number 6, what type of strengthening exercises should be done for hamstring injury? Now, looking at what I talked about before, it says focus in on agility and core strength, but still you need to do some strengthening when it comes to a hamstring injury. And the option we end up having are concentric strengthening exercises, eccentric strengthening exercises, isometric strengthening exercises, and I talked about what each of them are in one of the slides before, and the answer ends up being D. So it ends up being all of the above. So we end up needing to focus in on all those contractions: isometric, concentric, and eccentric contractions when it comes to recovering from a hamstring injury. Question number 7. What has been shown to help prevent re-injury of hamstring injury? Decrease your sitting, doing a hot tub prior to activity, correcting muscle imbalances, none of the above. Answer ends up being C, correcting muscle imbalances. So looking at the body and looking at correcting muscles imbalances, and a big one ends up being between the quadriceps and the hamstrings, which I end up covering in the hamstring injury solution. Now, if you end up having a hamstring injury, or have a friend or family member recovering from a hamstring injury, or work with people that have hamstring injuries, I recommend to check out my hamstring injury solution program at hamstringinjurysolution.com, where I kind of give you a program which ends up helping you overcome a hamstring injury and prevent re-injury of your hamstring. Now, I am an injury expert in more than just hamstring injuries. I've covered all kinds of injuries, and you can see a list here and here, so you can swing by exercisesforinjuries.com and take a look and see if I have if I have help for you when it comes to one of your other injuries or an injury for one of your clients. Also, make sure to swing by exercisesforinjuries.com. You can get my $299 fitness education gift, where I have 2 seminars and presentations that I talked about the shoulder. So thank you very much for joining me on this video and going through this 7-question quiz on hamstring injury recovery. So this is Rick Caselge from exercisesforinjuries.com saying take care and bye-bye. And I forgot to mention, you can visit me here at exercisesforinjuries.com. You can send me your questions here, and that's it. So this is Rick Caselge from exercisesforinjuries.com and hamstringinjurysolution.com saying take care and bye-bye.